Is there any recent examples that come to mind that you can discuss with us that were particularly interesting or navigated into a really high value sale, which probably didn't look like that at the beginning?
Yeah, sure. One that springs to mind is a sale from a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't my usual service model. So, as I explained, normally I'm there with the vendor from the get-go, the interview process and selection of agents, etc., etc. This was my silver service, which is a little bit different. So, this vendor was referred to me by two different professionals, and she had her property on the market for 2 weeks. So it was already advertised, already had the agent halfway through an auction campaign. She reached out to me because she wasn't trusting what the agent was telling her, his recommendations, and she felt like he was pushing for an earlier sale. And she was questioning, based on the interest they'd had and where they were at, if that was the right thing to do and whether he was just trying to get a quick sale and get rid of her in a not nasty way, but just let's move on to the next client. And she said to me, it was really great up until the point I listed my house with him. And once it was listed and on the market, that relationship just wasn't the same. And he started telling me what to do. He wasn't working with me as a partner in the sale and he wasn't listening to me. So in that case, and just to clarify, she paid me directly in that case because the agent was already way halfway through working in the sale. And I got involved, obviously had a long, detailed conversation with her, had a look at the advertising campaign so far, and then I had a chat with the agent. And that can be a tricky situation to come into. And it's not about, oh, the agent's doing the wrong thing. It's how can I work with you to achieve the sale? And that's the approach that I take with the agents, because they've still got to be happy in working with me and also with my vendor, because if they're not happy, they're not going to get the best price. So it's a little bit of massaging, I suppose, but it worked really well. Long story short, a couple of days into working with them both, I said to my client, how are you finding the agent now? Because from my perspective, he's been actually really good to work with. He's really communicative, he's efficient, he is doing the right thing by the strategy, this, that. And she said, it's really funny. He's gone back to how he was before I listed my house with him. So he picked up his game and he was back in 100% and working really hard to get the best price. So we had a really good result in the end. It did end up selling before auction. The vendor was ecstatic. It superseded her goals and expectations. And the agent was really happy too. He actually called me afterwards and said, thank you so much for getting involved. And I feel like we worked really well together. And I don't like working with lots of vendor advocates because, as I said, a lot of them do it on the side of buying and it's not their priority or focus. But I loved working with you. Please let me know if you get any other clients in the area. And that's how it works for everybody.
Right. I would say the biggest part of your role is that relationship building, which is so critical for both the client and the agent, which is very tricky to do, I've got no doubt.
Depends, but it's a
Yeah.
lot easier, of course, when I'm involved from the beginning, because then we get a great agent who you won't see that difference or change in behavior because they're going to work hard from the get-go.
Fantastic.